My neighbor's kid keeps waving at my bedroom window, but my house is a one-story and that window is a mirror. I was not supposed to be awake. My alarm was set for 7 a.m. My presentation was half finished on my laptop, and the reasonable thing would have been to turn off my phone and go to sleep like a functioning adult. Instead, I was in my usual late-night position, sprawled on my back, one leg hanging off the side of the bed, phone hovering over my face as my thumb flicked through an endless feed of other people's disasters. Bad news, worse news, petty drama. It all blurred together into that dull, buzzing numbness that feels like rest, but absolutely is not. The only light in the room came from my phone and the thin strip of streetlight sneaking in around the blinds. My bedroom has a full-length mirror directly opposite the bed, a tall old thing that came with the house. During the day, it makes the room look bigger, reflecting the window on the wall to my right and the bland view of our quiet cul-de-sac. At night, though, it just sat there and reflected the dark back at me. I scrolled past a thread about mysterious footprints in someone's hallway and laughed under my breath. My eyes were starting to burn. I told myself I would lock my phone after the next post. Then the next. Then just one more. My thumb paused mid-scroll, hovering over a video that started with a jump scare warning, and I let my gaze drift away for a second to give my brain a break. That was when I saw it. Not directly. I saw it in the mirror. In the glass, my window looked like a pale rectangle, the blinds half closed. The faint orange glow from the streetlight painted a blurry shape across the reflection. I almost looked away, ready to drag myself into a proper sleeping position. Then the shape moved. I focused. The way you do when you are not sure if you are seeing something or just inventing it out of boredom. The rectangle of the window in the mirror sharpened slowly as my eyes adjusted. Someone was standing there. A small figure just visible through the gap in the blinds, framed perfectly in the reflected glass. Short, dark hair stuck up in soft little spikes. Round face. A blue pajama top with some kind of cartoon animal on it. My neighbor's kid, Ethan. He was standing outside my bedroom window in the middle of the night, his small hand lifted in a slow, deliberate wave. He was smiling. Every bit of drowsiness vanished in an instant. My whole body went cold and tight, like I had just missed a step on the stairs and was still falling. I twisted my head to the right and looked at the actual window. The blinds were still, the gap exactly where it should be. I could see the streetlight across the cul-de-sac, the outline of the maple tree in my front yard, the faint shapes of the houses opposite. No kid. I sat up too fast, the room tilting for a second. My heart was hammering so loudly I could hear it in my ears. I dropped my phone beside me on the bed and swung my legs over the side, padding barefoot across the carpet to the window. I pulled one slat of the blinds down with my finger and peered out. The street was empty. My driveway empty. The sidewalk, the patch of grass by the mailbox, the circle of light under the street lamp, all empty. Every house was dark except the faint bluish flicker from someone's late-night television. I waited, watching, feeling foolish and unsettled at the same time. No movement, no sound but the low hum of the fridge in the kitchen and the faint rush of a distant car. I forced a breath out and let the blind snap back into place. When I turned around, my eyes went straight to the mirror on the opposite wall. Nothing. Just my own reflection now. Hair sticking up, shadows under my eyes, the faint outline of the bed behind me. The window in the mirror was just a pale shape again. My skin prickled. Sleep deprivation, I told myself. Light from someone's TV catching at a weird angle, maybe. Or I had half fallen asleep and imagined the whole thing, the way your brain sometimes projects leftover images onto the dark. I picked up my phone, checked the time. 2:17 a.m. I made myself lie back down. I even laughed a little at how fast my heart was still beating, like I had just watched a cheap horror movie and let it get under my skin. I told myself I was being ridiculous. Kids wander sometimes, sure, but I would have heard something. And besides, Ethan's mom, Claire, was careful. The kind of careful that triple checks the car seat buckle. By morning, it felt distant enough that I almost did not say anything. But as I was taking the trash out, I saw Claire in her driveway, wrestling a bag of groceries out of the trunk with one hand and holding her coffee in the other. She looked exhausted, her hair pulled into a loose knot, dark circles smudged under her eyes. "Hey," I called, lifting a hand in greeting. "Rough night?" She gave a tired smile. "Aren't they all?" I hesitated, then walked a little closer. "Hey, weird question. Is Ethan okay?" That got her attention. She straightened up, shoulders stiffening. "He is fine. Why?" "I thought I saw him last night," I said carefully. "Outside, near my place. It was late, so I might have been half asleep. Probably nothing. I just wanted to make sure." Her gaze flicked over my shoulder toward my house, toward my bedroom window, like she knew exactly which direction to look. For a split second, something like panic crossed her face. "He does not go outside alone after dark," she said, her voice too quick, too firm. "Not anymore." "Anymore?" I echoed. She pressed her lips together like she regretted saying it. "I mean, we keep the doors locked. I am just careful. That is all." She shifted the grocery bag higher on her hip and forced a brighter tone. "I have to get these inside before the milk goes bad. But thanks for checking." Before I could respond, she turned away, hurrying to the front door. She did not look back. The words settled in my chest like a stone. Not anymore. All day, the image of Ethan in the mirror hung behind everything I did, like a mental watermark. Every time I passed my bedroom door, I felt an urge to look at the mirror just to be sure it was empty. By late evening, embarrassment had turned into a low, steady curiosity. If it was a trick of the light, I could prove it. So that night, I made a plan. No doom scrolling, no half-asleep blurring of reality. I got ready for bed early, turned off all the lights except the lamp on my nightstand, and climbed under the covers with my phone plugged in but unlocked beside me. I turned the brightness down low and opened some uninteresting article, something dense and boring, then laid back and closed my eyes most of the way, breathing slow and steady. If anyone looked in, they would think I was asleep. The house settled around me in tiny creaks in size. The refrigerator cycled off. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked once, then stopped. Time crawled. Eventually, the digital clock on my dresser glowed 2:30 a.m. I slit my eyes open, just enough to see the mirror. At first, it was just my room reflected back at me in dull shapes. The bed, the open closet door, the pale rectangle of the window. I almost let my eyes close again. Then, slowly, like someone stepping into frame, a small form appeared in that pale rectangle. Ethan. He was closer this time, pressed right up against the glass in the reflection. His face filled the narrow gap in the blinds, skin washed out by the sickly streetlight, eyes wide and shining too much. He was not smiling now. Both his hands were splayed flat against the unseen surface, fingers stretched so far they looked strained. His mouth was open, wider and wider, his jaw distorting in a way that did not look quite right, like a glitch in a video. I could see the shape of a scream, every muscle in his face pulled tight with terror. But the room was silent. His panic was trapped on the other side of the glass, a long, soundless scream that somehow felt louder than anything I had ever heard. I do not hear anything, but my body reacts as if he is shrieking in my ear. My hand moves before my brain catches up. I lunge for my phone on the nightstand, fingers clumsy, almost knocking it to the floor. The moment I wrap my hand around it, the spell breaks just enough for me to breathe. Record. I need to record this. I open the camera with shaking hands and point the phone at the mirror. The screen shows my reflection, pale and wide-eyed, the bed behind me, the rectangle of the window in the background. The street outside is empty. The window in the reflection is empty. No kid. No small hands pressed flat against the glass. No impossible, silent scream. For a heartbeat, I think maybe I imagined everything, that the fear has already rewritten the moment in my mind. Then I lower the phone, just a few inches, so I can look at the mirror with my own eyes. He is still there. The difference hits me like a physical blow. In the mirror itself, Ethan's tiny face is still stretched in that awful O of soundless terror, eyes huge and wet, fingertips whitening against an invisible barrier. In my phone, just a blank window and an ordinary night. I jerk the phone up again. Screen, nothing. Glass, empty. I lower it. The boy reappears, same position, same frozen scream like he never moved at all. Tears sting behind my eyes. This is not a weird reflection. It is not a trick of the light or some late-night show blinking across someone's TV. Whatever this is only exists when I look straight at it, when there is no screen between us. The realization sinks into my stomach, cold and heavy and thick. I am not just seeing something strange. I am being made to see it. My breath comes in short, shallow bursts. I force my gaze away from the mirror, like breaking eye contact with a wild animal. When I dare to look back, the glass is empty again. Just my reflection, hunched and shaking. I do not sleep the rest of the night. By morning, the mirror looks harmless, just wood and glass and dust. The sunlight makes it almost pretty. I cling to that normalcy as long as I can, until the memory of Ethan's face creeps back in, stubborn and vivid. I need context, something real, something I can touch. So I bake a reason and carry it next door. "Hey," I say when Claire opens the door, still in an oversized sweatshirt, hair piled up. "I ran out of sugar halfway through baking last night. Do you have any I can borrow?" I feel like I should already know which cabinet you keep it in by now. She hesitates just a second too long before smiling. "Sure, come in." The inside of their house feels different than it used to. Quieter somehow. Not the comfortable kind of quiet, but the kind that feels like a conversation was cut off mid-sentence and never resumed. On the wall by the entryway, there is a line of framed photos. Family portraits at different ages. Ethan as a baby, Ethan covered in cake, Ethan on the first day of preschool, backpack too big for his shoulders. The dates scribbled in neat handwriting on the bottom edges move along in time. Then they stop. The last labeled photo is from 6 months ago. Ethan is at the park, standing on the edge of the pond behind our subdivision, holding a stick like a sword, grinning at the camera. The water behind him glints dull and dark. Nothing after that. I feel it then. That heavy, pressed-down feeling, like someone has laid a thick blanket of silence over the whole house. I step into the kitchen, where Claire is rummaging through a cabinet with more force than necessary. "Sorry, everything's a mess," she mutters. "I keep meaning to reorganize." "Where's Ethan today?" I ask, trying to sound casual and failing. He usually says hi when I walk by. Her shoulders tense. For a moment, she does not turn around. "He's with his father," she says finally. "Out of town for a while." It sounds like she is reading from a script she barely remembers. Her voice thins on the last words, like they hurt on the way out. My eyes wander without meaning to. On a side table near the fridge is a cluster of framed photos. Family shots, a drawing in crayon, a little clay handprint. Behind one of the frames, half hidden as if someone started tucking it away and then stopped, I see the edge of something smooth and dark. An urn. Next to it, folded with careful precision, is a tiny hoodie I recognize. Blue, with a faded cartoon animal on the front. The same kind I saw on him in the mirror. The floor seems to tilt under me for a second. Claire finds the sugar and presses the container into my hands a little too quickly. "Here. Take as much as you need." I open my mouth, close it again. Any question I could ask feels cruel. "Thanks," I manage. "I'll bring it back later." Back home, I do not bake. I put the sugar on the counter and go straight to my laptop instead, fingers already trembling as I type our neighborhood name into the search bar, then add words like accident, child, pond. The article isn't hard to find. Local tragedy, retention pond behind Maple Ridge Estates, a brief moment of inattention, emergency responders, too late, words that circle around the thing without saying it outright. There is a photo, blurred to protect privacy, but the outline is unmistakable. A small body on a stretcher, a familiar blue hoodie, a woman on her knees at the water's edge, hands reaching out. The date is 6 months ago. My stomach twists. Claire lied, not just to me, but maybe to herself. With his father out of town, as if the town is here and the out is somewhere else entirely. I close the laptop, but the words do not go away. The retention pond is only a few streets over. If I open my bedroom window, I could probably hear the frogs from it on a quiet night. The mirror stands opposite my bed, bolted into the wall with old, stubborn hardware that has probably been there since before I moved in. I try to lift it just to see, fingers digging into the frame. It does not budge. The screws are half rusted, painted over. I drag my bed a few inches, angle my pillow differently, try to find a position where I do not have to see my reflection if I wake up. It feels ridiculous, petty, but I do it anyway. Then I turn on the lamp and leave it on. The overhead light, too. The room glows too bright to be comfortable. Eventually, exhaustion drags me under. I wake up to the feeling of being watched. Not the vague sense of unease you get in an unfamiliar place. This is sharp, precise, like a fingertip pressed right between my shoulder blades. I lie perfectly still, my heart already racing. The air in my lungs shallow and thin. The lights are still on. Shadows pool gently in the corners. The house is utterly silent. I know with a terrible certainty where the gaze is coming from. Very slowly, because I cannot not look, I turn my eyes toward the mirror. He is there. Not at the window this time. Ethan stands in the middle of the reflected room, right where my rug is, small bare feet sinking slightly into the pattern. His pajamas are damp, clinging to his thin frame. Water drips from the ends of his hair that does not drip anywhere else. His eyes are wider than before, whites showing all around, locked onto mine. His chest rises and falls too fast, like he has been running. In the mirror, he lifts one shaking hand and presses it flat against the inside of the glass, right at my eye level. The surface beneath his fingers begins to cloud, a white mist blooming outward in slow curls. There is no reason for it. The room is warm. My own breath fogs nothing. But in the mirror, the glass is frosting over from the inside. His hand moves, dragging through the mist, fingers leaving clear trails. Letters start to form, jagged and uneven, each stroke a little more frantic than the last. I read the words once, twice, every muscle in my body locking so hard it almost hurts. Don't turn around. In the mirror, Ethan's chest was still heaving. His hand hovered just under the final letter as if he had run out of space or strength at the same time. Slowly, he lifted his gaze to mine. He shook his head. It was tiny, almost imperceptible, but there was no mistaking it. A slow, pleading no. His eyes were glossy, wide with a kind of desperate fear that did not belong on a child's face. Every instinct I had screamed to ignore the warning, to twist around, to see what might be behind me, to prove there was nothing there. I could feel the weight of the room at my back, the vast, awful unknown of it pressing in, begging to be acknowledged. But the boy shook his head again, more urgently, and lifted one trembling finger. He pointed down. Not at me, not at the bed. At the floor in the reflection, just behind where my reflected body sat. The corner where the bed frame met the wall. The place I could not see without turning, without looking away from him. Something is there. The gesture said without words. Right behind you. I forced myself to keep breathing. In, out. My throat was too dry. Very slowly, keeping my eyes on the mirror, I inched my hand along the bedspread toward the lamp on the nightstand. The familiar ceramic base felt strangely foreign under my fingertips, like I was touching someone else's belongings in a stranger's house. Okay, I whispered, not sure who I was talking to. Okay, okay. I turned the switch. The bulb flickered so violently it threw strobe-lit slices of the room across the mirror. For a moment, everything strobed white, then dipped into a sickly dimness. In the glass, the room looked wrong, darker than it should have been, as if the light had to push through syrup to reach it. Ethan flinched back from the sudden brightness, then stepped sideways in the reflection, just enough that the space directly behind my mirrored shoulders came into view. Something was there. It was tall. Too tall for the room, its head brushing the frame of the reflected ceiling, though there was still a good foot of air above where my real ceiling ended. It was not a shape so much as the suggestion of one, a density of shadow that swallowed the light instead of being shaped by it. Its arms were long, disproportionately long, draping down until the hands hovered just above my reflected shoulders. Not quite touching. Almost. I felt it then. Not hands, exactly, but a pressure. A weight lowering itself onto me from nowhere. A cold so deep it went straight through skin and into bone, sinking into my shoulder blades as if it had always been there and I was just now noticing. I did not turn my head. I could not. Every side glance I tried showed me the same thing. My room, empty, well lit. Nothing behind me but the wall, the dresser, the door. Only in the mirror did the truth exist. Ethan's eyes flicked between my reflection and the hulking darkness behind it. His lips moved, forming shapes soundlessly. At first, they were a blur, my fear too loud to let the meaning in. He tried again. Slower. Help me. His hands curled into fists at his sides, then opened again, fingers curling and uncurling as if gathering courage. He swallowed, his throat working in the dim, and mouthed the words once more. Help us. The shadow's long fingers tightened, pressing into my reflected shoulders. In the mirror, my body seemed to sink under the weight, even though I was rigid, barely breathing on the bed. Ethan flinched as if struck, his whole small frame jerking. Us. The retention pond. The article. The blurred photo. The blue hoodie. The heavy quiet inside Claire's house. The bolted mirror. The way the reflection showed one world and my phone another. Whatever pulled him under the surface of that dark water had not stayed there. It had found a way in. The mirror was not just decoration. It was a doorway. And the child I had watched wave from my window was caught in its threshold, somewhere between my side and whatever waited in the dark behind the glass. I do not know how, I whispered, voice shaking. What do I do? I did not expect an answer, but Ethan took a small step forward in the reflection, closer to me, closer to the inside of the glass. He lifted his hand again, but this time instead of pointing, he pressed his palm flat against the mirror's inner surface, right over where my own would be if I reached out. I knew what he wanted. Fear clawed up my spine, but something else rose with it. Guilt. The knowledge that I had seen him, that he had reached for me twice now, that pretending I had no part in this would be a lie. I forced my arm to move. The shadow behind my reflection seemed to lean in, interest sharpening in the curve of its not quite shoulders. The pressure on my real back grew heavier, like the air thickened. I raised my hand and stretched it toward the mirror. The glass should have been cool and solid. Instead, when my fingertips touched it, it gave just slightly, like the stretched surface of water moments before it breaks. There was a strange resistance, a shimmer that buzzed along my skin. Ethan's expression crumpled, relief and terror folding together. He lifted his other hand in a small, shaky wave. It was the same gesture that had started all of this, but now it looked like something else entirely. Goodbye. I pushed. My hand slid forward, not around the frame but through the surface itself. The cold on the other side made the air in my lungs seize. It was not just temperature, it was an absence. A deep old nothing that grabbed hold of every nerve in my arm. In the reflection, the shadow moved fast for the first time. One elongated hand shot down and closed around my wrist. The pain was instant and blinding. an icy burn that tore up my arm in jagged lines, like my nerves were being rewired with frost. My vision went white around the edges. I could not even scream. The sound tore from my throat and dissolved in the heavy air. The room changed. The pressure that had been resting on my back slammed inward from all directions, as if I were suddenly at the bottom of some immense, invisible depth. My ears rang. The lights flared once in fierce protest, then exploded in a shower of sparks. Glass rained from the lamp, popping against the floor, plunging the room into a suffocating electric darkness. I yanked my arm back with everything I had. For a second, it felt like something was pulling the other way, a relentless drag that wanted more than just my hand. Then my elbow hit my own chest, and I toppled sideways onto the bed, clutching my arm to me. The mirror screamed, not with sound, but with the sharp, ripping crack of breaking glass. The surface spiderwebbed outward from the spot my hand had been, fractures racing to the edges, then bursting free. Shards flew forward, spraying across the room like thrown ice. I heard them hit the floor, the dresser, the wall. And yet, in the heart of all that chaos, the reflection did not vanish right away. For a few impossible seconds, the image in the frame held steady, as if the world inside it refused to acknowledge what was happening outside. The room in there was still intact. The lamp still shone. The mirror was still whole. Ethan stood where he had been, small and trembling. The shadow loomed behind him, hands still extended, though its fingers were now wrapped around emptiness. Then, like a scene jump in a badly edited film, he was gone. Only the shadow remained. It moved, slow and deliberate, stepping backward until it stood where the window would be in that other version of my house. It turned, or seemed to, angling itself toward some distant beyond the glass. Testing the view, testing the vantage point. The reflected light around it dimmed as if it were drinking it in. Then, finally, reality caught up. The image stuttered, warped, and blinked out. All that was left in the frame was the broken mirror in my world and my own terrified face, sliced into a dozen jagged fragments. Days blurred after that. I wrapped my arm in long sleeves to hide the pale, frostbitten lines that no doctor could explain. I avoided my bedroom until my exhaustion outweighed my fear. I bought heavy boards and screwed them over the ruined mirror, layer after layer, until not a single glint of glass was visible. For good measure, I threw an old bedsheet over the whole thing, as if fabric could block out whatever had already learned my name. At night, when the house went quiet and the glow from the streetlight faded, I heard it. A soft, rhythmic tapping from behind the covered frame. Sometimes it was slow, measured. Sometimes it came in bursts, like small, frantic hands knocking from very far away. I buried my head under my pillow and told myself it was the house settling, the pipes, the wind. Claire's house went dark one week without warning. No more cars in the driveway, no toys in the yard, no faint glow of a TV behind the curtains. A moving truck came early one morning and was gone by noon. The for sale sign never appeared. Her windows stared blankly at the pond. One evening, long after, I was walking down the hall past my boarded bedroom mirror, laundry basket in my arms, eyes pointed anywhere but the sheet-covered frame. Something caught my attention anyway. Just at the edge of my vision, through a hairline crack between two boards, there was movement. Small. Familiar. I stopped. The tapping paused, then started again, a little more insistently. I should have kept walking. I should have pretended I had not seen anything at all. Instead, against every warning I had ever been given, written or otherwise, I turned my head toward the mirror. In the thin, dark sliver between the planks, I saw it. A tiny, pale hand pressed flat against the other side of the glass. Fingers wiggled once in a hesitant, hopeful motion. A child's wave.